everyone, how you doing? Hope you're keeping well. Apologies if you see a little swishing tail pop up above my desk. Let's see if I can make him pop up. There you are. I've got a little cat on my lap because he's been by himself all day and he's very lonely, and so he wants a bit of company now that I'm back from work. So he's sat huffily on my lap, and just to let me know that he doesn't approve, he's swishing me with his tail. So apologies. He might not stay for the duration, and he might be a bit noisy. So today I thought I would talk a little bit about Holy Grail miniatures. You know, those figures, perhaps memories from your childhood, or perhaps things that are cultural references to things that you're particularly keen on, or perhaps they're sort of rare figures that you know, you've only seen once in a blue moon, if at all, and so you'd be looking out for those as iconic figures, perhaps to put in your collection. So we've all got a few, and I've been very fortunate in that I've managed to acquire a lot of mine. So my first sort of Holy Grail miniature, when I got back into collecting in about 2007, I think, so 2007, 2008, something like that, was the Jez Goodwin Vermeer, because I remembered Vermeer from Hero Quest. So when I got back into collecting, I wanted to do a sort of very typical third edition. I know they're not that typical, they're definitely not typical as a third edition army, but as creatures from third edition Warhammer, I wanted to create an army of Vermeer, because they didn't appear beyond that, other than a brief appearance in Age of Sigmar, but they were ruled out of the Warhammer universe after third edition. But third edition was a big push from Games Workshop to have them as the sort of the iconic creatures, in the way that Brew were in RuneQuest, the iconic creatures for the Warhammer world. So I wanted to have an army of those, and of course I wanted to have the Jez Goodwin limited edition Vermeer that appears in the Orange rulebook, and I was searching for. I say searching. When I say searching, I generally mean looking on eBay at this point, because there weren't really any other channels available, and eBay was not what it is now. You could pick up, even then, and that was after people realised that eBay existed, you could pick up some pretty good bargains on eBay back in the day, but this figure was regularly going for sort of £15–20, which I thought was a lot for a 28mm single figure. So I was browsing one day and I saw one pop up on eBay for buy it now for £5. Would you believe I delayed? I was thinking about it for about 10 minutes, and I thought, yeah, I would buy this. Unfortunately, nobody found it in the meantime. I think it had popped up fairly recently, so I managed to buy the Jez Goodwin Vermeer for £5 off eBay. So that was my first good Holy Grail find. And we will return to the sources of that army a little bit later on. I guess there are some Holy Grail miniatures that are fairly standard. Great Spine Dragon, anybody? This fantastic Nick Bibby sculpt features obviously a lot in the Golden Demon entries of the time, and it's absolutely my favourite dragon. It's one of the few dragons out there that looks like it could be actually a legitimate creature, and these they sell for regularly over £100. I think you're probably looking at about 120, 150 for a complete one in good condition on eBay now, so they're not cheap, and I wouldn't pay that for a miniature. I think there are some miniatures that I have paid that for, and we'll get to that. We'll get to that later on. But not for a regular release Great Spine Dragon. I wouldn't pay that for. And at the time that I was collecting this, I didn't have a lot of money, so I definitely wouldn't have been spending more than £100 on a miniature for sure. So I sculpted essentially my own. I sculpted the Eedworm, which is now available through Oakbound Studio, as my attempt at a spine dragon, because I couldn't get a spine dragon. And in the way that sometimes happens, when you sculpt something and you put it out there, the original comes back to you. So via a friend on the Oldhammer forum, this one was being sold for, I'm not going to tell you how much, but significantly less than £100. And somebody asked me if I wanted it, and I said, yes please, yes, I'll have that. So I had a spine dragon shortly after the castings of the Eedworm arrived. That was a few years ago, and although he got his wings done and some paint put on him pretty much immediately after he arrived, you will notice he's not finished, and that during the time that I've had him, one of his wings has suffered from the inevitable metal fatigue, which is so common on these dragons, so I really need to get him pinned. But I'm going to have him as part of a diorama with my Eedworm and a number of other dragons. So I'm dead chuffed again to have got hold of another Holy Grail miniature via a friendly contact. Another friendly contact, only I think 2020 possibly, yeah, end of 2020, set me up with some more Holy Grail miniatures of mine. These are Grenadier miniatures, dark crystal figures. There's an Uru mystic, of course, the Garfin Master Skeksis, and he's not, sorry, I should say he is a Skeksis. He's a Skeksis. The Garfin Master, his name is Skek-Ung. And Ogra, of course. Those were my wants from that range. The podlings are okay, and I don't really like gelflings, but I really wanted those, and I haven't painted them up yet. I really like them as sort of polished metal pieces. They've got a very satisfying, because they're really big and chunky, they've got a really satisfying sort of chess piece feel to them. But unfortunately Ogra and the Garfin Master are sort of nice and shiny and a bit blackened, and the Mystic isn't. He's a kind of duller pewter colour. It's a massive heft. So I might polish them and see what happens, but I'm probably going to end up painting them. Yeah, so those were a gift from a friend in the Oldhammer community who knew that I had been looking out for them for a while and had a couple of spares. So I do owe him something, and that's going to be coming probably quite soon, probably later this year. But ooh, I'm being attacked. I'm not giving him enough attention, and I'm talking too much to the camera, so I'm being attacked. There we go, he's gone. Yeah, so I probably will end up painting those, but yes, I owe him, and he knows who he is, and he will be getting something later this year as per our agreement. Another thing that happened very recently that I got hold of was mentioned in my recent Painter's Progress video. This is the Eldar High Avatar, and this was a once for miniature for me, because when I got Hero Quest and Space Crusade as a kid, it came with a little flyer with some painted miniatures, and this was on there, and immediately the bold bright colours of this really shouted out to me. So I'm not going to try and emulate that paint job, but I am chuffed to now have been able to source him and have him in my with my Harlequins. On the subject of trying to emulate paint jobs, I did do that with my Goblinoids combat cards that are behind me on the wall here. That was 3 years worth of collecting, 3 years worth of prevaricating, and 2 years worth of painting to get to get those done. So there were a number of, obviously, I'm going to count that whole thing as one Holy Grail project. and I honestly wouldn't be able to collect those figures now. The prices have gone so ridiculous. I might be able to do. One of the reasons I held off for 3 years after collecting was that I wanted to do a good job on the ones in there that are sculpts. There are some very extensive Kev Adams sculpts in the or conversions in the combat cards deck, and I wanted to be able to emulate those, to say nothing of Fraser Gray's incredible enamel paintwork. That I was going to try and approximate, not in enamels but in acrylics. So I prevaricated for a long time before I got the courage to do them, and I could probably do a better job on those sculpts now. But that's finished. That's one of those few projects that's finished, done, dusted, sorted, and behind me, and I'm very glad to have it. Now, if we go back to Hero Quest, anyone who knows me will know that Hero Quest was the foundational thing with my getting into Warhammer, and so of course my big holy grails are the Hero Quest metal prototypes that Mike McVeigh painted for the box art and for testing the game before it was released. Now, I have, thank you to other friends, I have managed to accumulate all of the heroes and the henchmen and the Skaven from the advanced Hero Quest set. They're a bit easier to get hold of. The Hero Quest ones are hen's teeth. The Chaos Warriors, there are some around because they were given away as Youngbloods painting trophies at some point, so I'm kind of hopeful that at some point I might have the opportunity to pick one of those up. The Gargoyles, there are a few around. I've seen a few on eBay popping up in the last 10 years or so. And the Wizards of Morcar set, although the Hero Quest set is one of the rarer ones, although I managed to get it off Gumtree for £15. That was another bargain that I'm very, very proud of, or pleased with at least. I can't say I'm proud of because I didn't do anything other than search on Gumtree for it, but very pleased with that. But the Wizards, certainly the Storm Master seems to be pretty common these days, and the Orc Shaman I've seen around. The Necromancer must also be around somewhere because he's featured in the Undead Armies book and various White Dwarf articles, so hopefully somebody thought that he was a cool enough Necromancer sculpt that they wanted to buy some off mail order, or someone in the casting room wanted to cast themselves up some, and there maybe are some of those around. But the rest, I don't know, and not even Richard Orklord Hale, as far as I know, has the Famir, which would obviously be my number one, I want that one, model, and the Orc, and the Goblin, and the Skeleton, and the Zombie, and the Mummy, and the Dwarf, and the Elf, and the Barbarian, and the Wizard. As far as I know, no copies of those exist in the wild in people's collections. If you know otherwise, let me know, I'd be interested to see them. So I mentioned in a previous video that I did do some tribute sculpts of the Hero Quest set, just as a practice to try and sort of emulate the style, and I have since managed to acquire a few of the collection themselves. So I didn't do, this is a plastic Storm Mage, and here's the prototype Storm Mage. I've had one of those for a little while. He's painted up, and he is a bigger, chunkier model than the plastic figure, which is interesting. This is the original plastic Orc Shaman model. My one is about the same size, and I did recently pick up the actual original prototype, and he is quite a lot bigger. You know, his shoulders come up to the head of the, I dare say his shoulders come up to the head, but his head is rather sunk into the shoulders. But his shoulder line is sort of at the level of the top of the hat of the original, of the plastic version. So he's quite a lot bigger. Now, when I did the Gargoyle, first of all I had my plastic Gargoyle, and then I bought the nearest equivalent bloodthirster, because I thought I'm not going to get a metal gargoyle, so I want a nice resolution. He's quite a lot bigger than the Hero Quest gargoyle. So then when I sculpted my Hero Quest tribute gargoyle, I made him about body size, about the same height as the metal bloodthirster, so a fair bit bigger than the plastic gargoyle. Now, before Christmas, I was quite naughty and I bought myself a Christmas present because I saw it come up, and the last few gargoyles that I've seen come up they've gone for in excess of £200 on eBay. Some close to 300, and I'm not paying that. I'm still not paying that for a lead toy soldier. But I put a speculative bid on, and this one worked. So I have acquired myself, and I've now stripped him and cleaned him up, a metal prototype gargoyle. So a Holy Grail achieved on this front anyway. But his body, not really dissimilar in size to the plastic one. He's about the same size. If anything, he's a little bit slimmer and shorter in the leg than the plastic one, which is interesting. Looking at them in the foundry cabinet, I've done sort of comparisons holding these plastic ones up to the foundry cabinet. It's really hard to judge when something's behind glass and at a distance, but the metal prototype gargoyle is not much bigger than the plastic one, if bigger at all. His wings are pretty much exactly the same size, maybe a little bit smaller. So all in all, my one is much too big. But there you go. So that's it's similar to like when I was sculpting the Eadworm as a not a spine dragon. It's like you call stuff to you by sculpting, I think, sometimes. So it's like if you have a Holy Grail figure that you're having difficulty obtaining, maybe try sculpting one. Maybe that sends waves through the ether, through, I don't know, whatever communities you're part of, and maybe you'll end up with. But maybe it just puts you in the mind that you really need it because your own sculpted version isn't going to be good enough. So, but maybe it calls the opportunity to you. So that's cool. So I have now got 3 Hero Quest prototypes. I have got the Orc Shaman, I have got the Stormmaster, and I have got the Gargoyle, plus all of the advanced Hero Quest ones. So if anyone has a spare Chaos Warrior or a Fimir, or the Necromancer model, I think those would be my... Oh, and the Chaos Sorcerer, of course. Those 4 would be my top priority. Next to that, the Orc and the Goblin, and next to that, the Mummy and the Goblin... the Mummy and the Skeleton and the Zombie. The Zombie and the Mummy I'm not particularly bothered. I don't really like the sculpts anyway. It may be a bit obvious from my tribute sculpts that those models are those attempts are a bit ropey because I'm not really inspired by those figures. But the Skeleton's cool. Definitely the Goblin and the Orc and the Fimir and the Chaos Warrior and the Chaos Sorcerer and the High Mage, the other figure from the Wizards of Morcar. Those would be definitely on my Holy Grail list. Interestingly, I think they did a Metal Ogre Horde Ogre, but I've not seen that. So, if anyone knows of the existence of that, and there was somebody a few years back who had a metal prototype of the not the henchmen, the men at arms from the Advanced Quest, Hero Quest. And he was noticeably different to the regular Empire soldiers with plug-in weapons from a similar era. So I think he was probably a prototype, and I probably should have said, "Oh, I'll buy that off you," but I didn't, and he's probably lost now. But again, if anyone knows of a Hero Quest prototype that's out there in the wild and that needs a home, I'm looking to give it a home. Back to the sculpting, calling things to people. I had an instance. The last couple of years have just got so muddled up. I don't think it was last year. I think it was the end of the year before, where somebody was on the lookout for an unreleased model. And again, as a sculpting exercise, I sculpted a version of as close as I could get, just to hone my sculpting skills a little bit, try and emulate the style of somebody else's model. And sent that to them, and then a couple of months later, they received the original model as well, so it worked for them. So you can do this by proxy as well. If you've got a rare or unreleased figure that you want to acquire, maybe ask a friendly sculptor if they want to sculpt it for you, and they can send it to you, and it might call the original model to you. Who knows if that's how the universe works? But go on, what I would be interested to know anyway, in the comments below, or talk to me on Facebook, what is your Holy Grail model? What are the things that you're most looking out for? The figure that, whether you think that you would ever get it or not, what's the thing that you're most hunting for? Yeah, be really interested to know, so let me know. And I will see you next week. Take care.